15 plant tasks you must do this May, that most people forget. Hello, friends of earthly delights. If you've found your way here, chances are, you're someone who talks to your plants, someone who notices the tilt of a leaf, the softness of soil, or the quiet joy of new growth. Maybe you live in a sunlit apartment, or maybe you've turned a corner of your backyard into your own little green universe. Either way, you're not just growing plants, you're growing something within yourself too. And now, it's May, the season of momentum. The light is shifting, roots are reaching deeper, leaves are stretching wider, and whether you're a beginner still learning when to water, or a seasoned grower trying your first moss pull, it's time to tune in. Because in today's video, we're diving into 15 essential plant tasks you must do this May. Not just to keep your garden alive, but to help it thrive. Every tip comes with real-life stories, practical guidance, and a few surprises I've learned from years of nurturing green life. So get comfy, grab your favorite cup of tea, and let's walk into this new season together. And hey, if you love this kind of grounded, heart-rooted content, don't forget to subscribe to Earthly Delights. We're building a beautiful, growing community, and you belong here. Part 1. Seed, soil and starting over, opening transition. Let's start where every garden truly begins, not with the tallest plant or the prettiest bloom, but with the courage to start something new. You see, May is nature's green light. The soil is warming, the days are stretching, and whether you've got a windowsill or a full backyard, this is your moment. The plants can feel it. And if you're here, I know you can too. But here's the truth many gardeners won't say out loud: starting over can feel scary. Maybe you've had a few failures this year. A plant that didn't make it. Seeds that never sprouted. That's okay. Growth isn't always tidy. It's messy, real, and that's what makes it so powerful. In this part, I'll walk you through the first 3 May tasks that lay the foundation for everything else: new seeds, refreshed soil, and simple steps that anyone, even total beginners, can follow. Let's dig in. Task 1. Start something new, even if it's small. You don't need a greenhouse to start something that matters. Sometimes, all it takes is a single pot and a bit of hope. This May, I want you to try sowing one new seed. Just one. Maybe it's basil to keep in the kitchen, or marigold to brighten your balcony, or maybe you've always dreamed of growing your own coleus, like the dramatic black dragon or the playful pineapple surprise. Whatever it is, don't overthink it, because what you're really planting isn't just a seed. It's momentum. It's permission to begin again. I remember the first time I planted coleus from seed. The packets arrived, tiny and light as air. I almost didn't do it, worried they'd never sprout, or I'd mess it up. But I pressed those specks into soil, whispered a quiet, "Let's see," and waited. A week later, life. Delicate, green, and brave. And if you've ever hesitated to start, let this be your sign. No project is too small. No beginning too late. All you need is soil, light, and a little faith. So go ahead, plant one thing, then come back and tell me what you chose. Ready for the next step? Let's talk about the soil beneath it all. Task 2. Reevaluate your potting mix. Your roots may be hungry. Here's something most plant lovers forget. Your soil isn't just a place for roots, it's a pantry. And by May, that pantry might be running low. Think about it. If you've had your plant in the same potting mix for a year or more, chances are the nutrients have been used up, the structure's breaking down, and water isn't flowing like it should. The plant might still be alive, but not thriving. And for those of you growing in pots indoors, this is especially crucial. Your plants rely entirely on you. They don't have rain or worms or wild compost to replenish what's lost. So, how do you know when it's time to refresh? Try the finger test. Stick your finger an inch or 2 into the soil. Does it feel clumpy, compacted, or overly dry despite watering? Are roots circling the base or poking out of the drainage holes? If so, your plant is trying to tell you, I need a better foundation. This May, take the time to repot at least one plant. Or if the pot still fits, just scoop out the top 2 inches of tired soil and replace it with fresh, nutrient-rich mix. Your plant won't just thank you, it will show you. With brighter leaves, bolder growth, and energy that seems to double overnight. Next, We'll talk about a tiny tip that makes a huge difference in the long run, and your future self will thank you for it. Task 3. Label everything. Your future self will thank you. Let's be honest. How many of us have looked at a mystery plant 6 months later and thought, wait, what was this again? It happens to the best of us. In the excitement of planting, we forget that memory fades, names blur, and all of a sudden, we're Googling purple leaf plant with fuzzy edges, like detectives on a botanical mystery. That's why labeling is more than just a neat habit, it's a gift to your future self. Whether you're sowing seeds or juggling a dozen propagations, take a moment this May to grab a few simple tags or sticks and jot down names and dates. You don't need anything fancy. A popsicle stick, a bit of tape, even a smooth stone with a marker works wonders. Trust me, 6 months from now, when you're deciding which plant to repot, feed, or propagate again, those little labels will feel like gold. And there's something quietly joyful about it too. Watching a plant grow and being able to say, "Ah, yes, that's the wizard sunset I started on May 5th. It's one of the smallest May tasks, but it carries one of the biggest long-term rewards. Your garden and your sanity will thank you." Ready to move forward? In the next part, we'll roll up our sleeves and get into the gritty heart of plant care, pruning, propagating, and protecting. Let's go. Part 2. Prune, propagate and protect, opening transition. Now that your roots are refreshed and your labels are in place, it's time to shift our attention to the visible, vibrant parts of your plants, the leaves, the stems, and the spaces where new life begins. Because May isn't just about growing more, it's about growing better. This is the month for intentional edits, for making space, literally, for stronger growth. Whether you're dealing with browning leaves, leggy stems, or a spider plant overflowing with babies, the next few tasks are here to help you gently shape your green world. We're about to explore the most transformative kind of care, the kind that says, "I see your potential, and I'm willing to make room for it." Let's start with the one practice that feels scary to many, but is often the most powerful. Pruning. Task 4. Snip to save. Prune away guilt and dead ends. There's a moment every plant parent faces, the moment you stand over a tired-looking plant, scissors in hand, wondering, am I helping it, or hurting it? I've been there, so have you, probably, staring at a limp coleus or a brown-edged anthurium, thinking maybe if we just leave it alone, it'll fix itself. But here's the truth. Plants don't need our pity. They need our clarity. Pruning is not punishment, it's permission. Permission for the plant to redirect its energy toward fresh, healthy growth. When you cut off those old, yellowing leaves or snip back the leggy stems, you're not ending anything. You're clearing the path for something new. I remember pruning one of my first coleus plants down to what looked like, well, nothing. A few bare stems, no leaves in sight. I felt like a monster. But 3 weeks later, it came back fuller, stronger, and more vibrant than ever. That's what May can do. So this month, look at your plants honestly. Are there leaves that are no longer serving them? Stems reaching too far, too thin? Cut with kindness, cut with purpose. Your plant, and your confidence, will grow back stronger than ever. Coming up next, when to snip a plant, and when to multiply it. Let's talk propagation. Task 5. Propagate with purpose. Pass along the green legacy. There's something magical about turning one plant into many. Maybe you've seen it happen by accident. A spider plant sending down its little offshoots like a proud parent. Or a pothos vine quietly rooting in a jar on your windowsill. But this May, I want you to do it on purpose. Because propagation isn't just practical, it's powerful. It reminds us that life wants to multiply. That beauty isn't meant to be hoarded, it's meant to be shared. The best part? You don't need special equipment. Just clean scissors, a healthy parent plant, and a bit of patience. Clip a cutting below a node. Place it in water or soil. And wait for the roots to whisper, "We're ready." I still remember gifting a baby plant to a friend who had just moved into a new apartment. It wasn't big, it wasn't fancy, but to them, it meant life. It meant a new beginning. And it started with a single cut in spring. So whether you're growing your jungle or giving someone else a piece of yours, choose one plant this week to propagate. Make it intentional, maybe even label it with today's date. You're not just spreading leaves, you're spreading love. Up next, we'll talk about trying something new, maybe even a little weird. But it might just transform the way your plants grow. Let's explore. Task 6. Try one new medium, experiment to expand your garden's potential. If you've been growing in soil your whole life, here's a gentle nudge. Try something new this May. Because sometimes, our plants surprise us the most when we step just a little outside the norm. Maybe you've heard of LECA, those little clay balls that hold moisture without soil. Or semi-hydro setups, where roots sip water from a reservoir below. Or even moss pools, where climbing plants like Monstera send their roots deep into a support system that mimics the rainforest. Now, I get it. Trying a new medium can feel like starting over. I remember the first time I planted a spiderette in LECA. It wobbled, it sulked, and I thought, well, that was a mistake. But a month later, roots everywhere. The plant stood tall, vibrant, and full of promise. That's the thing about experimentation. It often leads to breakthroughs. Especially when the risk is small and the reward is watching something unexpectedly thrive. So pick one plant, just one, and try a new growing medium. Not because you have to, but because curiosity is the gardener's superpower. In the next part, we'll shift from experimentation to vigilance, because with all this new growth comes some unwanted guests. Let's talk pests, and how to protect your leafy loved ones before they even know they're under attack. Part 3. The Pest Patrol, Vigilance Without Panic, Opening Transition. Growth attracts attention, not just from us, but from everything in the ecosystem. And as our plants put out fresh leaves and juicy new stems this May, there's something else stirring: pests. Now, before panic sets in, take a breath. A few bugs don't mean you've failed. In fact, noticing them early is a sign you're paying attention. And that's what this next part is all about. We're going to turn worry into action. I'll show you how to spot the signs, respond with confidence, and set up a simple routine that keeps your plants healthy and your peace of mind intact. Because when you know what to look for, pests go from being scary to solvable. Let's begin with the one invader that always sneaks in when you least expect it: spidermites. Task 7. Spring brings life and pests. It starts innocently enough. A few tiny webs between leaves, a soft speckling on the foliage. You lean in, squint, and suddenly realize you're not alone. Spider mites. Spring is the season of revival. Yes, but not just for plants. It's also prime time for pests to emerge, especially in the warm, cozy environments we create for our indoor gardens. I still remember the first time I noticed that fine webbing on my calathea. At first, I thought it was dust. But within days, leaves began to pale and curl. And those golden flecks? Mites. They were feeding on the very life of the plant. But here's the thing. Catching it early made all the difference. If you spot webbing, discolored patches, or clusters of tiny bugs under the leaves, act quickly. Isolate the plant. Rinse it thoroughly, getting into all the crevices. Then follow up with a gentle, plant-safe spray like neem oil or insecticidal soap. And here's the trick. Treat it more than once. Pests often hide in the smallest corners, waiting to return, so stay consistent, and don't lose hope. Remember, your attention is your plant's best defense. And in spring, a little vigilance goes a long way. Next up, let's build a simple weekly inspection habit that protects your plants, without adding stress to your life. Ready? Task 8. Create a 3-point weekly inspection routine. Let's be real. Most of us are busy. Between work, family, and remembering to water ourselves, it's easy to forget to really check on our plants. But what if I told you that just 5 minutes a week could save you from weeks of damage? Welcome to the power of the 3-point inspection. This May, I want you to build a simple habit, 1 day a week. Pick a time that works for you, and check 3 things. First, the leaves. Look at the tops and bottoms. Any spots? Curling? Webbing? These are early signs of stress or pests. Second, the soil. Is it too wet? Bone dry? Does it smell odd? Get your fingers in there and see if it's time to water. Repot, or aerate. Third, the light. Has the sun shifted in your space? Plants that were thriving last month might now be burning or craving more light. Especially in May, as days get longer and stronger. This tiny ritual doesn't just keep problems away, it builds connection. You start to notice things. A new leaf here, a stubborn pest there, and over time, that awareness becomes instinct. You're not just checking boxes. You're tuning in, and your plants will reward you with trust and growth. Next, we move into the light, literally. Let's talk about how sunlight can help, or hurt, and what you can do about it. Part 4. Light, space and energy flow, opening transition. Light is life, and in May, that life comes flooding in, brighter, longer, and stronger than it has all year. For your plants, this can be a blessing, or a silent battle. Some will soak it up and explode with growth. Others might wilt, fade, or even burn under the very light that once helped them thrive. Because the sun has shifted, and if you're not shifting with it, you might miss the signs. This part of our journey is all about realignment, giving your plants what they need, not where they were last month, but where they are now. We'll start with a task that can change everything without costing a cent, simply moving your plants into the right light. Let's dive into it. Task 9. Reposition for the rising sun. By May, the sun is no longer shy, it shows up earlier, stays longer, and beams with intensity. And while we might welcome that warmth, some of our plants do not. That trailing pothos in your east-facing window? It might suddenly be crisping at the edges. Your pink princess philodendron? Its once vibrant leaves could be fading or curling. These are signs. Your plant is trying to adapt, but it needs your help. The fix? Repositioning. This task costs nothing but offers so much. Take a slow walk around your space. Notice where the light hits in the morning, mid-afternoon, and evening. Are your low-light lovers now baking in direct sun? Is your monstera suddenly shaded by taller plants? Remember, plants can't move themselves. But you can. Shift them a few feet. Rotate them weekly so all sides get light. Or use a sheer curtain to soften intense afternoon rays. And here's a tip I've learned. Place your hand between the window and your plant. If the light feels too hot for your skin, it's too much for your leaves. This may be your plant's sun compass. It doesn't take much, but it makes all the difference. Next, let's talk about the silent struggle tall plants face, and how to support them before they fall. Task 10. Support tall plants before they beg for help. There's a quiet moment in every tall plant's life where it begins to lean, not just toward the light, but under the weight of its own ambition. Maybe it's your monstera, stretching skyward with oversized leaves, or a climbing philodendron, wandering off its shelf like a curious explorer. And you start to notice it, the droop, the slant, the silent cry for help. That's your cue. This May, give your tall plants the support they've earned. Moss poles, trellises, bamboo stakes. Even a simple chopstick and twine can work wonders. Don't wait for them to topple. Support them now, and they'll reward you with fuller growth, stronger stems, and a steadier shape. I've seen it firsthand. A leggy plant, once awkward and floppy, transformed into a bold centerpiece, all because it had something to lean on. And here's the deeper truth. Even in life, we all grow better with a little support. So offer it freely, gently, confidently. Your plants don't need to stand alone. They just need to stand tall, and you can help them do exactly that. Coming up next, we'll explore what it means when your plant's colors start to fade, and how it's not always a bad thing, but it is a message. Let's decode it together. Task 11. When variegation fades. Listen closely. You bought it for the marbled leaves, the creamy whites, soft pinks, or silvery streaks dancing across the green. That rare variegated plant became your pride and joy. But now, the new leaves are coming in plain, just green. At first, you might feel disappointment. Did you do something wrong? Is the plant reverting? Not necessarily, but it is telling you something important. When variegation fades, it's usually a cry for more light. Those beautiful white and cream patches contain less chlorophyll, which means less ability to photosynthesize. So when a plant doesn't get enough light, it compensates by growing more green. I had a stunning Thai constellation monstera once. After a few months in a shaded spot, it pushed out a full green leaf. A soft whisper. I need more light. I listened. I adjusted. And the next leaf? Spotted stars again. This May, Take a moment to assess your variegated plants. Are they still showing their patterns? If not, try moving them closer to a brighter, indirect light source. Sometimes just a few feet can make all the difference. Don't panic when the color fades. Pay attention, adjust, and let the plant show you what it needs to shine again. Up next, we'll explore why letting go of old leaves, and even old rules, can be the secret to real transformation. Let's move into decluttering. Plant style. Part 5. Declutter, repurpose and let go. Opening transition. In every garden, there comes a time to let go. Old leaves, cracked pots, outgrown routines, they all have a way of lingering, quietly taking up space that could be used for growth. And maybe, just maybe, it's not just your plants that need a little clearing out. This next part is about release, removing what's no longer serving your garden or your peace of mind. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional, creating space not just for more plants, but for better energy, brighter beauty, and a sense of ease in your green spaces. We'll start with one of the simplest, but most overlooked, habits in plant care: tidying old leaves. Let's make room for what's next. Task 12. Tidy old leaves, but not too perfectly. Every leaf tells a story. Some are fresh and unfolding. Others are curling at the edges, marked by time, change, or maybe a missed watering. And while it might be tempting to leave those old, yellowing leaves, just in case, May is the time to gently let them go. Not because they're ugly, but because they're done. Dead or dying leaves pull energy from the plant, energy that could be used to push out something new. By snipping away what no longer serves, you're giving your plant permission to redirect its focus. It's not a punishment, it's a release. But here's the catch: don't aim for perfection. Nature isn't perfect. A few browned tips or speckles of age? That's normal. That's honest. So prune thoughtfully, not obsessively. Remove the leaves that are mostly spent, but let your plant wear its story proudly. This task is as much for you as it is for them. Because sometimes, in the act of clearing out what's fading, you make space for the vibrant, the hopeful, and the wildly alive. Now, let's revisit something you may have forgotten about, but that could be quietly thriving in a corner: your old propagation box. Trust me, it's worth a look. Task 13. Revive the forgotten prop box. It's the box you meant to check. The one tucked behind the curtain or under the plant shelf. That plastic tub filled with perlite, or maybe moss, holding tiny cuttings you snipped weeks, maybe months, ago. You forgot about it, but life didn't. This May, go open it, carefully, slowly, like you're unwrapping a gift from your past self. What you'll find might surprise you: roots where there were none, tiny leaves unfurling, and maybe even a few second chances. Some cuttings will have thrived in your absence, others, not so much. And that's okay. This isn't about perfection, it's about rediscovery. A good prop box is like a time capsule of growth. Quiet, humble, and often overlooked, but it's also one of the most powerful tools a home gardener can have, especially if you're short on space or just love watching miracles unfold in miniature. So this week, dig out your prop box, or make one if you haven't already. Moist perlite, a few hopeful cuttings, a clear lid, and patience. That's all it takes. Because sometimes, the things we leave behind are still rooting for us. Up next, we move from the small to the spectacular: how to turn separate plants into a living, breathing masterpiece of color and texture. Let's talk about the beauty of a mixed planter. Part 6. From tasks to transformation, closing reflection. Maybe you started May with a to-do list. A few leaves to trim, a few pots to shift. Just tasks, right? But as the days passed and your hands moved through the soil, something deeper unfolded. These weren't just chores, they were choices. Choices to listen, to care, to trust growth even when it's slow. Because when we nurture plants, we're really practicing something bigger: presence, patience, and belief in what's unfolding, even when we can't see it yet. This final part isn't about doing more. It's about realizing what all of it meant. And it begins with a single, powerful question: what could happen if you gave your plants a little more space to dream? Task 14. Create a mixed planter, the power of community. Some plants look beautiful on their own, but when you bring the right ones together, something magical happens. A mixed planter is more than just a decorative pot, it's a conversation between plants. Different shapes, colors, and textures coming together to form a living tapestry. And May is the perfect time to start one. Choose plants with similar light and watering needs, like pothos, philodendron, and satin varieties. Mix trailing vines with upright growers. Add a pop of color with something variegated. What you're creating isn't just visual harmony, it's energetic balance. I made my first mixed planter in a moment of indecision. I had too many cuttings and too few pots. So I combined them all, and the result was stunning. Full, layered, lush, like a jungle in a single pot. There's a lesson in that. Sometimes, growth is better together, and in a world that often feels scattered, watching different plants thrive in the same space is deeply grounding. So gather a few of your favorites, play, experiment, and plant them side by side. Because your garden isn't just a collection, it's a community. And now, we come to the final task, one that invites you to dream big. And help your plants do the same. Ready? Let's go. Task 15. Give your plants a goal, bigger, bolder growth. Every plant wants to grow, but not every plant gets the chance to level up. And that's where you come in. This May, don't just maintain, motivate. Choose one plant, just one, and give it a real challenge. A larger pot, a longer moss pole, a gentle dose of fertilizer, a sunnier spot, something that says, I see you, and I believe you can do more. You'd be amazed at what happens when you give a plant room to grow. Roots stretch, leaves double in size, colors deepen, and the plant begins to show you a version of itself you've never seen before. I once gave my monstera a taller pole and a brighter corner. 2 months later, it unfurled a leaf so big, I had to rearrange the shelf above it. That moment reminded me, plants don't ask for more, but they always rise to the occasion when it's given. So take a walk through your space. Who's ready to rise? Who's been quietly waiting for a little extra support? A bigger dream? This isn't just about plants, it's about momentum. And May is the perfect time to shift from getting by to growing forward. And now, let's bring everything together. The soil, the pruning, the sunlight, the trust. Let's close this chapter with a reflection you'll want to carry into every season. From May to momentum, you're not just growing plants. And just like that, we've reached the end of our May garden journey. 15 tasks, 15 quiet acts of care. Some small, like labeling a tray. Others bold, like chopping back a plant to bare stems. But each one a step towards something deeper than just greenery. Because you're not just growing plants. You're growing presence, patience, purpose. Whether you're tending a shelf of succulents in a city apartment or nurturing a backyard jungle. Every act of care you offer your plants ripples back into your life. It reminds you to slow down, to pay attention, to trust that roots are forming, even when you can't see them. And the truth is, your garden is already talking to you. Every leaf, every sprout, every inch of growth, it's all a reflection of your willingness to show up. To learn, to try again. So here's to May, a month of movement, momentum, and quiet miracles. If this video inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our growing community here at Earthly Delights. We've got plenty more green magic to come, and you belong right here with us. Until next time, keep your hands in the soil, your heart open, and your light growing.